Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catfish Weekly 68, Do's and Don'ts in Tournaments. We're going to talk a little bit about some things you should be doing, some things you probably shouldn't be doing. Probably talk a little bit about some other things, but welcome, everybody. Sorry I missed you last week. Um, Chuck, if you want to go ahead and get us going on the do's and don'ts, some things you might want to get talking about, go for it.
Yeah, well, I hadn't fished any, really big tournaments. Monsters on the Ohio, they were pretty much standard rules that I would see would be, um, you know, if every tournament trail had a standard set of rules, Monsters Ohio would probably be one of the mentor set of rules that would probably be up there for all the tournament directors to look at and make changes to get the perfect set of rules. Um, you know, I haven't, you know, I fished one national trail, um, then I fished the Winter Blues, and then the the national trail and Winter Blues both. They're the only two that have been trailering events that I fished. Winter Blues, they had to show up at the ramp and have live well checks and then, leave as the boats were leaving when their numbers were called or whatever, um, which probably gave them more of a disadvantage because they had driving time before they even got in the water. Um, but they may have got further down the road than some of the slower boats that wanted to make long trips. So either way was good. If I was to fish a trailering event or have that as part of my, um, the part of my trail, I would say, they would need to show up at the hosting ramp and be released as the boats are being released from that hosting ramp. And also, um, when the live well checks, the the tournaments that are trailering that that they don't show up at one certain host trail, they don't have their live well checks. So I mean that just seems like something very fair that would need to be. Uh, Hold on a second. That would need to be standardized before any tournament or any um, part of that tournament before anybody was released to go on the water. They ought to be a live well check and some essential safety device checks. You know,
Well, Chuck, that's one of the things that we've talked about before, and that's one of the issues about these guys, these tournament directors allowing guys to go out early using different ramps. There's no way to control that, and they're dependent on polygraph tests to do the policing for them. And the end result is they don't even use a polygraph at a lot of them. They don't even check the guys, and it's not fair to check the guy that won it. He may not have been the one that's doing wrong. It might have been the third, fourth, fifth, 30th place guy. The end result, if he's doing wrong, he's doing wrong. So whenever they allow that kind of stuff, not only are they opening up the opportunity for people to do wrong, they're cheating those host towns, places out of revenue because them guys are using a different ramp. They're going to stay at a different town. They're not going to go in there and spend their money at the place where the people put up the money. It's just silly.
yeah, that's correct. Um, you know, by me fishing, there's so many shaded areas in some of the trails rules that leave so much wide open, and you try to think the way that they would want you to think about them, and do them the way that they intend to do. But I mean, the more you look at them, the more wide open they are. Um, some of the local trails that I've fished, they're a lot more strict, and a lot, I would call it more fair, than some of the trails that I've actually, read over their rules and stuff. Um, you know, when there's a whole lot of money involved, there's going to be guys come out of the woodwork that I believe would bend the rules a little bit, to go for that extra money. It's hard to say that money would run a tournament like that, but I believe it would happen if somebody's given that chance and they had a chance to do it. It leaves too much wide open for that to happen.
That's 100% correct.
You got anything, Lyle? I'll think up some more here in a minute. We got a while.
Well, I got a whole list actually, and I've been forgetting a lot of stuff, so I actually wrote it down, and we'll go through this. If you guys have any comments on it, just go ahead and chime in. The first thing that I've got is tournament trails should all have a pre-meeting, whether it be, which I don't agree with having one, not having one the day of the tournament, because why would you turn away somebody that wants to pay their entry fee because they couldn't make a Friday night tournament? Take their money, give them a set of rules if they missed the meeting, but you got plenty of time. Well, as everybody gets there early, have a meeting the day of the tournament, 30 minutes before it starts. Make it mandatory that at least one member of each team show up. Now, if you don't have a member show up, that should be an automatic disqualification. If you guys want to have one the night before, that's fine. But why would you turn away somebody's money that wants to enter that couldn't be there on a Friday night because they had to drive a long way, they had to work, whatever the situation is? Take their money, get it in the payout, and call it a night. Have the meeting the day of the tournament like anybody with common sense would do. Pre-fishing. There's got to be a cutoff for pre-fishing. A lot of these tournaments don't post this. We cut our pre-fishing off midnight the day of the tournament. So at 12:01 day of tournament, if you're out fishing, you're disqualified. If anybody catches you, turns you in, whatever the case may be, there's going to be a discrepancy. So that's just it. And now us, like a lot of other people, allow you to get bait day of tournament. Most guys want fresh bait. Me and Chris and Chuck and everybody. So if you know a place at say 4 o'clock in the morning, you can go get a load of skipjack or a load of shad in about 15 minutes, and you're going to run down there and get it. What happens if you throw a net and you get a 20-pound flathead? Well, the thing you got to do is you got to throw it back, because if you don't, somebody else is going to be out there and they're going to see you, and then there's going to be a problem. So just don't do it. Put it back and call it a day. One of the things that's been brought to my attention, I've had numerous phone calls and messages about it the last couple of weeks, is tournament partners that are sponsored by the same company, not necessarily fishing partners, but people that are affiliated with each other through a sponsorship, tying up in the middle of rivers, whether they're visiting or swapping fish or telling them where they're catching, whatever the case may be. Boys, that's wrong. Some of the tournament series actually have a rule in them, which is the craziest thing in the world because you can't police it at all, that you're not allowed with any electronic communications, no phones, no marine radios, none of that. So if you're not allowed to do that, why in the world would you allow them to tie up to each other's boat or hold on to the sides of it and do whatever they're doing, whether it be chalking or whatever? You know, if you can't use a cell phone to communicate with somebody, you sure as hell shouldn't be allowed to sit in the middle of a river and hang on the boat and do whatever it is that you're doing. You know, the rule for anchored fishing, as far as I know, is pretty standard. Is 50 yards between boats. So that 50 yards should be the rule, and I've already contacted Alex about amending some of our rules. If it should be 50 yards between boats at all times. I just think that that's something that all tournament directors should address, and this tying up or holding on to or whatever it is you're doing, you should not be able to do that during tournament hours, period. It's wrong. It just is. And these guys are having some issues at different places about saying they have to make a meeting the night before. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. People can't make those. People got to work. If you got a job, you better take care of your job, and your fishing comes first, because tomorrow that job may not be there. So if you have to work till 5 o'clock on Friday and there's a meeting 4 hours away at a tournament and you can't make it, they let you fish the next day. Well, the rules say you can't. Well, you can't be both ways. You either got to do it or don't do it. And I say, this is my opinion only, you can like it or not like it, it's ignorant to not have a meeting the day of the tournament and take those people's money and have it in for the payout for the population of the tournament. That's silly. It's crazy. It's ludicrous. Anybody that does that's a fool. I don't care who you are, and some of you ain't going to like it, and I know my email is going to get filled up, but that's the way it is. If you're not taking the entry money from people that want to fish, you're cheating the rest of the people entered in the tournament out of prize money. It's that simple. Think about it, boys.
What
I got
about
a question for you, Lyle.
Okay?
If for example, somebody came to you and say you're in your rules, it said, 12 o'clock you got to be off the water. They come to you, they show you, they take a cell phone picture of so-and-so that's on the water at 12:30. Shows, they got a clock in the picture and everything, shows them on the water. That next day, your tournament starts. These guys that were on the water at 12:30, do you take their money and tell them they're disqualified at the end of the tournament? Or do you just disqualify them and not take their money to start with?
To my knowledge, all of the tournaments that I've ever been in, all of the rules say all protests must be made within, and ours say 15 minutes. Some of them say 30 minutes. But at the end of the tournaments. So you take their money, you pay it out in prize money, and then if the proof is substantial, you disqualify them.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I agree with
if
that.
they've done wrong, and there's proof that they done wrong, you make a legitimate protest at the end of the tournament. They not only lose the prize money if they would have won any, they lose their entry fee money because they done broke the rules. That's the way it should be. There's got to be some punishment for what you're doing that's wrong.
Lyle, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Or, do you think that most of these tournaments that have mandatory captain's meeting on Friday night, do you think that's part of their deal with the host city to try to promote more hotel sales and restaurants and all that?
No, because most of the guys that are doing that are allowing them to go out and sit on a body of water before tournament hours. They're allowing them to use different ramps other than the ramps at the host city. Therefore, they're cheating those people out of revenue but could have been taken in because the city, the companies, whatever it is that are putting up the money at these cities, they want that motel sales, they want the restaurant sales, they want the gas sales, they all want it in their community. When you allow these people to go to different areas and fish different areas, they're not only going to use their ramp, they're going to buy their fuel there, they're going to stay in their motels there, they're going to eat in their restaurants, and the host city is losing out on not only that, but the tax revenue off of it. So I have my phone this year and computer messaging has escalated over wanting us to go different areas to do tournaments that other people are having because of those situations. We had a guy talk to us for at least 2 hours at a tournament earlier this year wanting us to go to an area because they're extremely unhappy with the guy that's doing the tournament, that they won't do it the way they want it. They're allowing people to stay, go to different ramps. They don't like that. They don't like the fact that they can sit out there early on the thing. They don't like the fact that they're all not leaving from one area. They don't come in at the same time. It's not exciting for the community, and they're going to lose this whether we take it or not. These people are going to lose their hosting. And I've talked to Alex about this, and we've thought about it. We've tried for years not to step on anybody's toes, but when these tournament directors are making these people unhappy and they're wanting tournaments in their area, there comes a point in time when you got to say, hey, this guy's doing it wrong. Everybody knows that they're doing it wrong. It's time to step up to the plate, do it right, make a big deal out of it, and make the community proud of what you're doing, because they don't just look around and say, we want you to come over here. They have a reason. If they're contacting you and somebody's already putting tournaments on that area, they're pretty upset, or they wouldn't be contacted to start with.
Well, what do you think about tournaments like, let's say the Monsters on the Ohio, that have a mandatory captain's meeting on Friday night, but then again, all boats, put in at the same ramp? I know that there were plenty of boats. I think what they said, 10 or 12 more boats at least that would have made it if they were able to show up on Saturday morning. I don't think it would hurt to have an exception to where if somebody has previously fished a Monsters on the Ohio tournament and has prior attended a captain's meeting, that they could get a waiver to miss the captain's meeting, and pay at 4 a.m. in the morning, with an extra fee that goes toward big fish or something. Because you're right. There's so many people that just can't get off work to make it. Even if they may only be pushing it where they're going to miss the captain's meeting by 1 hour. And if they've got the exception or the waiver under some circumstances where they can pay the next morning, I believe a lot of tournaments will have a lot better attendances also.
I agree 100%, and believe me, there's nobody that thinks any more of Aaron Wheatley than I do. He is one of the greats in our sport. He works his tail off to put on the very best tournament in our nation. As far as I'm concerned, I've been to most all of them one time or another, and he tries harder, works harder to do the best that he can do. But I do not agree with the fact that if you can't make the Friday night tournament, and I'm sorry, Aaron, I know you're going to be mad at me, but I just don't agree with that. And I know some guys that didn't make it last year because they couldn't get there, that are big-time catfishermen. And I just don't agree with that. I have actually stayed at the ramp when we was fishing a tournament. When somebody called me and said, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late, I want their $100 in our pot. And I stayed at the ramp, took their entry money, checked their live well, and sent them out, and then launched my boat so we could go fishing. And I'd do it at the next tournament if it meant that there was one guy or two teams that was going to be late for the tournament. We want to put that money to pay out. And I feel like anybody that doesn't do that should take a look at it. And like I say, I think the world owe Aaron, but him and I don't agree on everything. I think he should agree with everything that I say, but I know that he don't. And that's just one rule that I don't agree with. And there's others, but Aaron does so well with what he's got. I'm never going to complain if he changes anything or not. I just don't agree with that rule. And it's not just Aaron. Cabela's, Bass Pros, Brad does it. There's a bunch of people that do that, and I'll never agree with it. It's kind of like allowing trailering. We tried that one year. It's the stupidest thing I ever done in my entire life. And setting out on spots before the tournaments to start and let them use different boat ramps. That is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. And people say, well, it's because you can't get them all out fast. Boys, let them out 5 at a time, every 10 or 15 seconds. It takes about 10 minutes to do it. It's no big deal. If they wanted out sooner, they should have paid their entry sooner. That's the penalty for not getting your buddy a gear. But like I say, you're not going to get everybody to agree with everything. But I know what works and what don't. And I'm telling you, if you don't think there's things going on when you do it that way, you're wrong, because it is happening. It's just the way it is. But, Aaron, don't be too mad at me just because I don't agree with what you do. You run a hell of a tournament, and everybody wants to be there. But I don't agree with that, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, I think that his tournament is so well organized that even somebody who didn't show up to that captain's meeting is not going to be, I guess, able to do anything wrong. I mean, they're going to show up, they're going to be in the line, they're going to. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the way he runs it, it's all almost assembly line done. You know, I mean, there's really no wrong way to go. If you know the time to be there, how many fish you need to have, you know, it's pretty much all there is to it, and you should be able to show up late, and the meeting is good. I think there's a reason why he has it there and the way he does it, and it's nice to be able to tell everybody in one time that, here's the rules, here's the way it's going to go down. But when you are trying to have the biggest and the best tournament in the country, there's going to be a lot of guys, like Lyle said, that aren't going to be able to come down on a Friday. They've already used their vacation for the year, or they only get 2 days for the year, and they've got a wife and kids that want to go to Kings Island or SeaWorld or something one of those days, and they can't use that day. So get them in that tournament, get their entry fee, get that into the payout. It only adds to the allure to bring more people in every year.
That's exactly right.
And Fudd mentioned in the chat, it is an inconvenience fee by having to take their money early in the morning and sign their waivers and all that. But if they want to fish that tournament bad enough, and they put pay that $25 or $50 inconvenience fee that goes and makes the big fish pot bigger, and if 10 boats are late, and they have, and I would say this, that if they have previously fished a Monsters on the Ohio tournament, if they've already made one and they've already made a captain's meeting, I would see that would be a prerequisite of being able to be wavered for a morning show up. But have the money, go to Big Fish. 10 boats that showed up Saturday morning that wasn't able to make the captain's meeting would have put another $250 toward the Big Fish. And that would just, if they're willing to pay $25 or $50 extra toward Big Fish to fish that tournament, they're really wanting to be down there and fish it.
Well, we charge $10 extra if you don't pre-register, and I'm not trying to say we're on the playing field with some of these other organizations, but if I was not going to be able to be to that meeting that Aaron has, if I wasn't able to get down there 2 or 3 days ahead of time and pre-fish, I would still pay $50 extra just to get in it because it's Monsters of the Ohio. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If I drive 5 or 6 hours to get there, and the way I stop all the time to go pee, that it's going to take me that long. And Aaron says, well, you didn't make the meeting, but I'll let you in for $50. I just reach in and he'll hip pocket grab her out there, because I'm going to fish that tournament if Aaron's going to let me in. I've done drove down there. I've been there before. I kind of know where I'm probably going to fish. Take my money, Aaron. Let me in this baby. I'll pay it. If it's $100, I'll pay it because I'm already there. So it's something to think about. Like I say, we charge $10 extra for being late because here's one of the things, and I think I've told you guys before. Years ago, we used to do a meeting on Friday nights. We would, wherever the tournament was at, we'd have a dinner, sometimes at a VFW hall, sometimes at a restaurant, sometimes at a boat club. And it wasn't free meal. These people charged for it, but they give us a reasonable amount of money. And if you wanted to pre-register there, you could. But anybody that chart come day of tournament, then it's an extra $10 because these places don't know how many people are going to come. They don't know how much food to fix. They don't know what kind of accommodations to make for these guys. So it only takes a minute to drop a check in the mail. These places, it's not that big a deal, boys. I mean, you have no idea unless you're in that position how much difference it makes when people got an idea how many people's going to be there. Then Brad Kilpatrick and I was talking some time ago, and it's been a while. But he figures 50% of what prepays, there'll be at least there'll be that many more show up. So if he has 25 or 50 boats pre-registered, he's probably going to have 50 or 100 boats at his tournament. About half of them will pre-register, and I don't believe that many pre-registered with us. I think there's a lot more that just pay the $10 the day of the tournament and go on because if it's pouring down rain, they might not come or whatever. $10 ain't that big a deal, but if you make it substantial enough, then give you something to think about. But we're not in it to do that. That's not the reason we do it. But anyhow, I think that's a fair way to do it. Next, are we done now?
Yeah, that about covered the the captain's meeting part.
What do you guys think about just since we're on it real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt again, but you were talking about this captain's meeting and the extra fee and whatnot. How many guys do you think would pay $25 extra to be able to miss that meeting so they could be catching bait or doing whatever they need to be doing, getting ready? That'd be a lot of added money to a pot too.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them will, especially if they don't have bait. They'll pay that in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I mean, I can see if you're gonna have a classic or a year-end event, where the captain's meeting and award ceremony the night before is mandatory. That's totally different. That is a club event. That's most of these trails that do this, have membership fees, and you fish together with the same people every week. But we're not talking about that type of event. I think it's great to have the cookout the night before a local trail classic. And get everybody together, bring the families, cook out, have a captain's meeting. Everybody go back to wherever, get some sleep, and then be hard at it the next morning. We're talking about these tournaments that people have to drive major miles. We were actually having doing a show at Bass and Moore, and while me, Chris, and Lyle was standing with Aaron, I believe he got 5 phone calls within that hour, people asking if they can show up the next morning.
He was absolutely busier than a one-legged man and a butt kicking.
Yeah, he was wide open.
Yeah, I got all the respect in the world for Aaron, and like I said a while ago, I don't want him to get mad because I don't agree with what he does. That's his decision to make. When 2 or 3 weeks before that tournament, if you ever try to call him, you might as well just figure on leaving a message, and he'll call you back. But he is so busy and has so much going on. That is just a major event, not only for Aaron, but for that whole community. I would say right now, if you don't have a motel reservation at the Ramada where most of us stay, I'm betting it'd be pretty tough to get one.
Right.
Because that whole community is affected by that tournament. And a lot of them guys say, oh, no, it does. That community is behind him so much. And he's not the only one. There's other trails and directors that gets people behind him too. But that one is the most impressive of any I've ever seen.
Yeah, Jay Jeffers asked, or he posted on the chat. He said there's a trail that is now letting people hit the water after the Friday night captain's meeting and camp on the riverbank anywhere they want, as long as they're out of their boat before 12 and not back in it before 5. What's our thoughts?
How are you going to police it?
You
There's
can't.
no way you can police that. No way.
That's a horrible idea.
It is. It's terrible.
It can't be a big money event. If you're having an event that's going to be $40 a boat, and the money's just good enough to have fun and keep it interesting, there's no problem with it. 20 boats is going to show up. The total money's $800. I mean that's I don't see a problem with that. But when you got 2, 4, up to $7,000-8,000 for a first place, that's the kind of events we're talking about that need to get a little bit more control.
I wouldn't want to fish a boat with 20 boats or a tournament with 20 boats in it, allowing that.
No. If it's just not a fun deal where a bunch of guys get together and go out, then I just can't imagine any reputable trail doing that.
He said Cabela's.
I don't know. I've not heard that. If that's the case, then they need to be looking for a new tournament director. Just that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, with Cabela's, I mean, if we would have decided to stay in a tent on the river, they don't say nothing about. We could have stayed at a campground in a tent, instead of a hotel. They don't tell you where to stay, so it's probably about the same thing as he's talking about. You can pitch a tent for $15 a night for the campsite, and it's not even preventative. You got water, electric, and everything. So I know a lot of guys, when they go out catfishing, they'll stay at the campgrounds and pitch a tent. Me and Leanne did it a few times last year.
I used to do that when I was a kid or younger even, but as close to camping out as I'm going to do from here on out, it's going to be a Ramada.
No, they got air mattresses now that you don't even want
to air conditioning. I want that air conditioning. And
I slept in my truck all night at Tanner's Creek with my truck on and the AC on.
I might do that if I had to, but if there's a room available, I'm probably going to get it. Well, listen, boys, I got 2 or 3 more things here, and we'll get out of this. This rule in some of these tournaments, to where they are telling you cannot use any type of electronic communications, no marine radios, no phones, no whatever. Who in their right mind thinks that's not happening? Everybody has a cell phone. A lot of people have marine radios, and personally, I think that all boats that are on major waterways with barges should have to have one. I know that's added expense. They're not that expensive, fellas. Be having one in my boat. The rivers that we fish, there's a lot of barge traffic, and it's a safety issue. But if you guys think that people are not calling each other up on these cell phones during tournament hours, you're crazy.
I do it all the time.
Well, yeah, and the only way that you can police that is to give everybody a polygraph test. They can't afford that. Nobody can. It costs too much to test each individual person. That's how they charge you, is by the person, not by the team or the tournament. So to have that in a set of rules is just the stupidest thing in the world. I just can't believe they do it.
I'll call somebody. You catching anything? It's buddy fish. I mean, we're fishing a tournament, but in the ICA, I probably call or text maybe 3 of the other people, fishing, just see how they're doing. And who knows if they're telling me the truth or not? But
most of them probably aren't. But they're your buds and they're your fishing partners. They may be teammate sponsors or sponsor teammates. There's no telling, and you might not tell them the truth. They don't know if you're telling them the truth or not. But it's there. You're not going to stop that. So why even have it in there? It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have them with you. Nobody is gonna do without a cell phone. You know, you
Yeah,
gotta have them with you for emergency. Your
yeah.
wife's got to get in touch with you. You know, you got to check Facebook every 10 minutes, or the fish won't bite. I don't get a bite unless I look at Facebook.
Oh
And
man.
so, you know, if guys are going to trade, you know, information about where fish are biting, or you know what holes are have been fished already, or whatever, it's going to be done. And the only way that it will ever be found out is if it's a first place that has a lie detector test, and that may come up, but besides that, it'll just be an unknown.
Well, I still say that the first place team may or may not be involved in altercation, but a lot of times it's further down the chain than that, and those people, if they're not finishing in the top part of the tournament, they'll never get checked whether they're doing something wrong or not. So
Yeah.
it's just a poor system. The other thing is, if there's a discrepancy and you think somebody's doing something wrong, just like we just got done saying, everybody has a cell phone. Can't imagine anybody having one that doesn't have a camera on it. Most people have a camera in their boat besides their phone. If you think somebody is doing something wrong, take a video, get a picture. You have to have proof that they're doing something wrong before you complain about it. And if you do complain about it, do it right there at the end of the tournament, not next day, next week, 2 or 3 weeks down the road. You take care of it right then and there, get it over with, right or wrong. If they've done something wrong, then you have brought it to the tournament director's attention. If you're wrong about it, they're going to tell you you're wrong about it. But regardless, if you don't complain or say anything at any time, if you don't have proof that something wrong has happened, because all you're doing is causing more issues amongst the people in the tournaments nationwide than just yourself. Believe me, if you don't think there's enough people arguing about catfishing right now, just jump on Facebook for a while. There is plenty of BS going on that shouldn't be there. Period.
But when you do that, when you bring it to a tournament director, when you talk to other people about it, do it in a way that you're not being completely rude about it, that you're
That's right.
not throwing a temper tantrum,
Right.
that if the outcome doesn't come out your way, that you're prepared for that and you're handling yourself professionally. And
Well, you've got to be able to accept the fact that you're wrong. You got to be able to say, "Hey, bud, I made a mistake and I'm apologizing for it." Because if you don't, you're going to have an issue from then on out.
yeah,
But yeah, you have to be professional about it. Even if you're mad, say, "Hey, I'm upset, but I'm going to try to handle this the best I can. This happened. Here's what I seen. You tell me if it's right or wrong." And most of the time, you're going to have to put it in writing, but writing does no good without proof. I don't care what the discrepancy is. But if you have a picture or a video, um, there is nobody in the world that's going to say something is wrong if you have proof of it. It's just that way. So you have to make sure of what you're doing and saying. That's just the thing. And like Chris said, be a professional. If you're wrong, say, "Hey, I made a mistake. I apologize. I'm sorry. I thought it was wrong, but evidently I was wrong about that." But even if you are right, don't get up there and say, "I told you so." That's not cool. Although
And that
sometimes it's fun.
that would probably be one time, you know, that you would use your electronic device without uh, relaying phishing information, is if somebody else is in the area, and you know, you might want to shoot them a text and say, "Hey, check this out, take a picture of it, what do you think?" You know, then you got two people with the information. um, you know, because some of these lakes, sometimes there's a few boats within, 100 yards of each other, and you know, certain directions. So they may be, it may be at at the boat ramp, close to the boat ramp. It could be, certain situation. But the more people that that see it happen, the more that's going to be done about it.
Especially if they
You know,
can't, if they can get different, because angles can really look one way or the other on a certain angle
Absolutely.
of a photo. A lot of times with red line issues on dams, a certain angle of a boat can look like it's past the red line, whereas if you look at it straight down, it's actually not past that line. So
Well, and
right.
something too about those lines. Most of those dams, they have a mark on the wall as the barges lock through, but they're never, that I know of, is there anything on the other side of the river to gauge it by, to know if you're over it or not. So that on the average dam, that'll leave you a variance of 100 yards one way or the other, whether you're over the line or not.
on the
The,
Ohio River, our dams all have a red line on both sides. You can see clearly on the right
not
and
on the
left.
Mississippi. Not on the Mississippi. There is very few places that have a mark on the Illinois bank. There's always one on the Missouri side where the barges lock through, but nothing to gauge it by on the Illinois side. And that's just silly. The Corps of Engineers really dropped the ball on that, but yet they will come out there and run you off or issue you a ticket or send it to you in the mail because they get your boat number right off the side of your boat. But yet they're telling you you've done wrong, but there's no way to gauge it on the other side. So if they're doing that correctly like that on your water, that's outstanding. They don't do it on our water.
Yeah, definitely get another person to come and see what you're seeing and get their video and tell them to get as much proof as they can, so that way you've got enough angles and things to really definitively say this person was doing something wrong.
Right, and Sandy says send it to the director, and that's another good idea. When you take it, if there's a question, if you send it and they say, okay, this is a violation, or no, you're reading something into it wrong, they can tell you and keep you from making yourself look like a fool when you get to their. But if he says, hey, this could be something that we need to take a look at, then he's already got it when you get there. So more good information. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is going early and launching from more than one place. And we talked about it a while ago. You tournament directors that think that's the only way to do it safely, look at these bass tournaments that they're launching out 200 boats at a time. Here's what I think. I think if you don't want to do it that way, it's because you don't want to do live well checks like you're supposed to. I think you're lazy. I think you are cheating the rest of the people in the tournament out of a properly run tournament. Now, you can get mad and you can cuss me and send me all the emails and messages you want to, but there is no reason. There's not a tournament run in the world that every boat can't be launched out of the same boat ramp. There's not a tournament that should ever allow a boat to leave that area without having a live well check. I understand things happen and people miss them, but if you tie a little ribbon or something on the boats, you know when they're sitting out there if all of them's been checked or not. Letting people set out on a spot before tournament hours is wrong. Letting them use different boat ramps is not only wrong, it's cheating those organizations and places that hold the tournaments out of revenue, and that's the reason they want you there to start with. Think about what you're doing and make the right decision. If you don't want to do all that on a Saturday morning, I'm telling you, you don't have enough help or you just don't want to do it. And that's not doing catfishing any good. And I don't care which tournament or how big or who they are, it's a matter of you don't want to do your job because you're doing it wrong. It's just that simple.
Yeah, they need to watch one of Kansas City catfishing's tournaments or Monsters on the Ohio.
I'll tell you what.
Them guys can get 100 boats off, in 15 minutes.
Yep.
You know,
Go up to the
it's no problem.
tournament up there and In Grand Forks, go up to the Cats Incredible Tournament. You're talking about a very narrow river with 130, 40, 50 boats launching out of there in 10, 12 minutes. They're all gone, 5 or 10 at a time. It's a, you can't help them guys in them 200s or passing them guys with them 35s going down that little windy river wide open. But you can get them out. You can get them in. It's a one-stall boat ramp, fellas. Everybody gets in, everybody gets out. The tournament runs without a hitch. If you want to learn how to do it, go up there and see how they launch out of over 100 boats and get them in and out with no issues. It's simple. You just do it correctly. You don't have any issues. You got to do it that way. It's just the right thing to do.
All right. You got anything else?
That's it for me for now.
Okay, before I get in on some of my do's and don'ts, I want to go and I want to thank some of the people that have been posting on the Catfish Weekly Facebook page. So, Chris Jones, he posts a lot on there, clients and stuff that he's had taken out, and that's awesome. We appreciate it. Keep posting those on there, Chris Jones. You got a lot of happy people catching fish out there, and it's nice to see it. Jacob Jones, Eric Wise. Eric Wise recently posted up a nice little reminder for everybody to be safe with the rivers being up and barges out there, just being safe on the water. It's good to have somebody that just posts a nice reminder like what Eric posted on the Catfish Weekly page. Patrick Wade showing people that the skipjack were in on the Ohio River at a specific dam. Thanks to you. Nate Smith, thanks to you for posting. Thanks to all you guys that are posting on the site. There's many more of you. I just select a few normally every once in a while and give you a shout out for doing what you're doing. We do appreciate it. Let's see some of my do's and don'ts. One of my do's is show up to the weigh-ins. Support the winners, let them know they did a good job, be a good sport. I've mentioned this quite a few times. There's many people who, they had a bad day on the water, they didn't do very good, and they get in, they jump in their truck and they leave. And, it's nice to know that when you've done a good job that the other people there really appreciate the fact that you did a good job, and they show you their support and appreciation, even though it's a competition. It's a very good sportsman thing to do, to show them the support for doing as well as they did. So stick around for the weigh-ins. Even if you didn't do good, support the winners. That's a do. One of my don'ts: don't spread misinformation before a tournament to help yourself. I think that's it's not a very classy thing to do. I mean, I could see, jabbing at a friend a little bit and telling them, you caught it on, peanut butter cookie dough balls or something like that, but don't intentionally tell them, hey man, there's, this tree and 40 miles downriver and you're going to catch all the 80 pounders you ever wanted out of it. And, especially for a new person or something like that, giving somebody bad information. Or, hey, bait's over here. If you want to throw cast net over here a couple times, during tournament or whatever, you probably get as much bait as you want. And really, there's nothing there. Do share info with new people to help them have a good experience. You got a new person visiting your club. You don't know much about them. Visit with them a little bit, get to know them, make them feel welcome at your trail. You want people at your tournaments. If they show up to your tournament and they feel like an outsider, they're not going to keep coming back. They're going to feel like, this is a good old boy group and they're not part of it, and they don't have any business of being there. You got to make people feel welcome. Help them have as best experience as they can. You don't got to give them, all your best spots in the world, but if you tell them, hey, they're doing, they're biting real good on shad right now. They're biting real good on skipjack. Do you have any skipjack? And if they don't have any skipjack, give them a skipjack or two if you got extra. you do things like that, you're going to really get people to stick around and fish your trail and fish your club, and they're going to that's going to come back to you. That person there is going to get into fishing. They might get good. They might come to a tournament next time and have, fresh suckers, and you wanted suckers and just couldn't find them anywhere, and he might give you a couple because you hooked him up before. That's a big thing, I think. The clubs that have a lot of regulars, they really can feel like a close knit group of people, where when a new person shows up, they don't necessarily feel that welcome. You gotta make a conscious effort to make the new people feel welcome in your clubs and at your tournaments. Don't One of my don'ts: don't be a poor sport. Don't have excuses for the reason why you lost a tournament. Don't not give credit to the people who won it and be a poor sport about it at all. If you lost, you lost. Just take it and go on with it and try to do better the next time. Don't Like I said, don't just once the tournament's over, weigh in. You didn't do well. Jump in your truck and head out. Stick around, support the people who did well. Maybe do a little bit of crap talking. Hey, next week, it ain't gonna be the same. Next month, I'm coming after you. Make it fun. One of my do's: follow the rules to a T. I mean, absolutely to a T. Do not try to hit a gray area. Try to, use the wording of something to make it to where what you're doing is considered legal in your mind. You might think, oh well, it's not really breaking the rules. It's not necessarily against a rule because they didn't say this specific thing or whatever it is. But it's not just hurting that tournament. It's hurting the sport in general if people see something like that. And that's your mindset. Your mindset's completely wrong if you think like that. Yeah, then another don't is don't do anything that could possibly be questioned. If you can avoid things that, like saying the red line, if you pull up past that red line and drop your anchor and let your anchor rope out right to the red line or where you think it is, you might have people saying that you're past the red line. Whereas you could have just went right to the red line, dropped your anchor, and been about 20 yards or 30 yards past it or something. And whether or not it's against the rules, if you pass that red line, and I believe it is. I believe it doesn't say you can't anchor past the red line. It says you cannot go past the red line. So once you pass that red line to drop your anchor, you've already cheated, basically, in most tournaments. In my opinion. And that's just one of the things. I mean, there's a lot of rules where or a lot of things that you can do, like Lyle was talking about, boats that come up together and tie off together or whatever during a tournament. That's questionable. That's going to be questionable by a lot of people. Anybody who sees that's going to say, why are these boats, tying off together and during a tournament? And there's no reason that any boat should be tying up together. If you could just avoid anything that can bring question to your character for a tournament and your ability to follow rules and everything like that, then why not just avoid it altogether and not give anybody the chance to call you a cheater or a liar or anything?
One of the things about that, Chris, is if these guys are affiliated in any way with sponsors, team members of whatever it is, not only do they affect themselves, they affect everyone involved. They are affecting their sponsors, other teammates, different people in organizations. So you're right, eliminate the issue before it ever happens. Stop the crap from being an issue. If you don't do it, you don't have to worry about it. And why would you do something that is going to be questionable and your sponsors are brought up in this, or you are, and people know that you're sponsored by them? Them guys are not going to tolerate. I promise you. You know, that'll get you dropped from me faster than anything. You know, it's just a bad thing to do because you not only make yourself look bad, you make everybody involved with you look bad.
Yeah. Jason Malone says, do take care of your fish. Just because it's gilling doesn't mean it's ready to be released. That's a good one. Um, you know, if you pulled a fish out of 60 foot of water on a 90-degree day, and you took some pictures with him in the boat, and you think he's healthy, and you drop him off the side of the water and just let him go, that's probably not the best thing to do. That's definitely in a tournament. You know, I mean, you're not going to do that. You're going to want to put it in your live well anyway. But you know, you want to burp a fish, of course. Anything that comes over about 25, 30 feet, and if you pulled it up quick, you know, you want to burp it. I keep an actual clear PVC flexible tubing in my live well. It's not very big. It's like 1/4 inch or so, but I can just stuff it down his gullet and it'll release air. So that way, there's some people that will let a fish sit on their deck. That works too. But in my opinion, I want to get that fish in my live well because most of the time the fish that go in my live well basically karate chop the crap out of me when I try to get them out. So I know they're healthier once they've been in my live well than when they've not. So like I've got the thumb rash and the hand rash just from the little flatheads that I had in my live well from this last week, and you know they were definitely healthier going back into the water than when I caught them. You know they definitely need that recuperation time in a live well, and most guys these days have the live wells that are going to really help these fish get back to being ready to be released.
I honestly believe that most tournament guys and a lot of non-tournament guys have live wells set up, and they can put fish in there after they catch one, and when they release it, they are far better shape after a resting period and a little air, oxygen, whatever you got in there. When they've rested a little bit, when you release them, they are healthy or as healthy or better shape than when you put them in. And I think that what you're saying is a great idea, even if you're not in a tournament and you catch a big fish or a medium-sized fish or a small fish. If he's stressed out, let him go in there, turn everything on, give him some recuperation time, and he stands probably a better chance of it than just throwing him back into the water. I think you're 100% correct on that.
Yeah, I mean, even before pictures, you know, if you've had a long, strenuous fight with a fish, you know, put him in your live well for a minute. Both of y'all take a nice breather. You know, get your jelly arms out of the way. You know, that way you can control him a lot better. You don't take a chance on dropping him in the pictures. You know, and then after the pictures, he's usually ready to go right then.
Well, you know, if you're fighting 30, 40, 50, 60, 100-pound fish, if you're tired when you get that fish in a boat, just think how tired he is. He never has to expend that kind of energy until a hook goes in him. So if you're tired, chances are really good that he's at least as tired as you are, maybe more so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty fat guy, so I guess I could think of it as if somebody dangled a big steak in front of me and I took a bite and they dragged me down the street, running down the road. I'd get to the end of the block and I'd be dead.
I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. You know, we've ate at a place up in Keokuk, Iowa called Ogo's. It's one of the best restaurants. It's a buffet style, and they've got everything on there, and 2 people can eat in there for $20, $24, something like that. And they got some of the biggest shrimp you ever seen in your life, and it's really, really good food. And every time I go in there, I think about my old buddy Ron Workman, and how every time he would eat shrimp at a buffet and he'd fill him a big old plate up, he'd send me a picture. Of course, I done it the same way, but you know, it's the same difference with these fish. You know, they got their buffet on, and now they need a rest before they go on and do their night's work or whatever it is you want to call it, because you know they're just making a living out there, trying to eat and survive. So, like I say, if you're tired, that fish is tired. let him take a break, get your pictures, get him back in the water, and let him go.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Jason, go ahead.
Jason. Jason just put, don't get involved in the sponsor wars on Facebook. I've been seeing a lot, after tournaments, people, get on there and they give, praise to their sponsors for what they did, and then guys that get on there, and talk about, no, use this rod holder, not that one, and they're trying to, give the rod holder company that supports them a little bit of support, and then people want to put in the comments some stuff about a different product. That ain't right, guys. Let the guy, do his praise. If you want to praise your product, make a separate post about it, and don't be bickering and arguing about what's better. That's what fishing for, these tournaments for. You prove that stuff on the water and at these weigh-ins. Facebook is not the place to bicker about your sponsors, their product. The tournaments are where you settle it,
And
and the weighing.
no sponsor worth his salt is going to want you uh, to be involved in that and want you to go to a competing products somebody sponsored post where they're thanking that guy and starting something like that in that kind of a post. They're not going to want you involved in that.
No, they're not. And
You're
I have recently, as much as, damn it, over the weekend sent, or maybe it was the end of last week, sent Steve Douglas a message, and Steve doesn't sponsor me. That don't mean he's not a good guy. Don't read something into this, fellas. But the fact that some of the people that I support use his products, and they contacted him to see if it was okay to put his logos on the jerseys of mine that they're using, and he agreed to that, and I thanked him for that. And it's Steve and I've talked a lot more here lately than we ever have, and I'm glad for that. I really am. But when these guys approached me about that, I said, you need to clear it with your other sponsors and make sure. I want you to do this. And every time he has agreed to do that. And like I say, he does not sponsor me in any way, shape, or form. But I believe that it is a good thing that he allows them to do that, and I'm glad that he does. It makes it better for catfishing all the way around, and that's what we're all supposed to be doing. Claude Reynolds and Aaron, Aaron Moran,
Ryan.
Ryan, I'm sorry. I got Aaron Wheatley on the brain, I guess. They use Jesse Simmons' product, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it right now.
Elite rod holders.
Elite rod holders, and again, I don't use his products. Doesn't mean they're bad just because I don't use them, but they do, and they love them, and they want to support him, and they support me, and we all are working together, and that's what all the people that are doing sponsors need to come together and do a little more of. You need to be supportive of your guys, even if they're using something that you don't want to. Just because they don't use a Driftmaster doesn't mean I'm not going to support them or they're not going to support me. Everybody doesn't use a Cat River anchor. I don't understand why everybody doesn't use them because I really like them. But everybody don't use them, and just because somebody's not using them doesn't mean that I'm not going to try to help them out. That's how that works. So I think if we all would get together and work at that, and one of the guys that does that very well is Rob Clodsfelder. Rob works with everybody. He's just a great guy for the sport, and seeing what he's done with so many different tournaments and so many different people has brought that to my attention where I should be more like that. But the deal with Steve, I'm so pleased that him and I can send each other a message back and forth and discuss a problem were there. It wasn't that long ago. We really couldn't do that, and I think it's good. It's good for him. It's good for me. It's good for catfishing, and that's what we should all be shooting for. Is what makes it better for the population of everybody that does catfish.
Yep. Couple more things. I wanna tell Gayla Wiseman. I'm not gonna go into it, but that right now until she says any more or whatever, that we're here for her. Everybody just got prayers for her. Good wishes, all that stuff. She could use it right now. Also, my good buddy Chaz Anderson, he's been running. He's been having a hard time with some things, and um, I've tried to be here for you a lot lately, Chaz, and I want you to know that I'm going to continue to be. And you are a great guy, and that your kids are lucky to have you, and you're a great dad. So just keep your head up, buddy. Keep working on doing what you're doing, making yourself a good person, and keep it going, man. Also, you guys, some of you guys may or may not have seen, Hector Carrillo has resigned as the Indiana Catfish Association president. I was the vice president. I am stepping up to be the president for the remainder of this year. So I will be the president of the ICA for this year, and at the end of this year, we'll have a vote. We'll do another vote at the business meeting like we always do. Normally, the president is a 2-year term. If I decide to run, then we'll have the nominations and everything and do it just like we would normally do it. We'll have that set up to do at the business meeting next year. But I do have some plans and some things that I want to try to get done this year. So hopefully look forward to some of those things. I'll do the best I can with the club and try to keep it the best and the biggest in Indiana Catfishing Club there is. So I did get a new website up for us at indianacatfish.com. I have the points updated now. They might not be exactly correct because I'm still waiting on information from the first tournament. I don't know how many fish people caught at that tournament. That's all I'm waiting on. But there's a lot on the website. I'm waiting, get some other things like the bylaws, things like that. And so also there's a tournament coming up at Lake Schaefer with Indiana Hunter and Hoosier Whiskers. The past Hoosier Whiskers really isn't a tournament trail anymore, but that's who's co-sponsoring it or co-hosting it. That's going to be at Lake Schaefer this Saturday from 7:30 at night till 7:30 in the morning. Right now it is looking like there might be some rain and thunderstorms, but might not be thunderstorms. I don't know. I know it's calling for like an 80% chance of rain. There's good channel cats down up there. There's good flatheads up there. I don't know if there's blues in there or not. It's a $60 entry fee. Jason and Heath Malone with Indiana Hunter will be there. They'll probably be able to answer any questions. It is a boat only tournament, no bank fishing. Up to 3 people in a boat. We're really going to look to see how this tournament goes, to whether or not they're going to do it again next year. So if you'd like to see that tournament return, you probably want to show up and support it. If there's any other information, Jason or Heath, if you're in chat or anything that you want me to tell them about, you can let me know and I'll let them know. But as far as my do's and don'ts, my last do I think that I had on here was be courteous and honest with tournament directors. Basically, kind of goes into what Lyle already said, and I added on to where I said, if you do see something or whatever, pretty much just approach the tournament director in a civil manner. Don't go screaming. Don't throw a hissy fit if it doesn't go your way. Pretty much just, there's things that happened in this last tournament that I didn't care for. They weren't exactly, it wasn't exactly a great start off, I should say, but you know what? I didn't say anything, and like Lyle said, I forgot to mention anything to the guy after the tournament, so I really can't say anything now. I mean, um, it more goes to the individuals that they need to know the rules, understand the rules, and follow the rules. If you don't, if you don't think that you're doing something right, you need to stop and ask somebody. But yeah, don't fish in my spot. That's the main rule for any tournament, anywhere. And everybody asks, "Where's your spot at?" And I keep telling them it's anywhere somebody's catching the biggest and the most fish at. That was my spot.
Brown's Ferry.
Is that where it's at right now?
Huh? That's always your spot when you go to Wheeler, ain't
Browns Ferry? No, actually,
it?
it's not.
Yeah. Oh, Painted Bluff.
That's a nice spot. I've
That's a
not,
great spot.
I've not caught anything huge there, but man, it's beautiful right there.
Oh man, right now when the flatheads are feeding heavy,
Yeah.
that whole area is just. I mean, you're just on the edge every minute. You won't get on the phone or nothing. I mean, you're just on stakeout. You're just
And there's
focused, just ready at any minute.
when I've gone through there, man, and I've seen what's down there. There's lots of stuff to where you pretty much would have to horse a fish out of because if they get into it, man, there you ain't getting it.
Oh yeah, you got to be on your toes, man. You can have your heart broken a minute.
My spot ain't eighth place. I got second place for 2 tournaments in a row before last week. Eighth place.
Hey, you're
Somebody.
only as good as your last tournament. You're only as good as your last tournament, Fudge.
Yeah, my last tournament wasn't all that. Let me tell you guys, and you know, I really this year I've been busting my butt for fresh bait. And this last tournament, I went and I got skipjack, fresh skipjack day before. I got moon eye the night before. I got fresh shad the night before, fresh bluegills the night before, fresh carp the night before. I had a really, that's why I said before the even tournament, I said, man, if I don't do well in this tournament, it ain't going to be because of my bait, because I had a nice selection of bait, and it was all fresh, and I just struggled Saturday. It was a real tough bite on the Ohio River for me. We drifted quite a bit. We pulled 4 flatheads in the last 2 hours of the tournament out from underneath the barge, and that was, I mean, we tried fishing every water column we could get. We weren't marking anything. Um, it was just tough, and believe it or not, I wanted to tell people this too. The Tri-State Catfish Shootout this year had 38 boats, whereas last year they had 54 boats, and there was more fish and heavier fish caught at this. Hey, I'm not giving excuses. I'm just saying I didn't do well. It wasn't my bait. I just couldn't find the fish or something. The people who won did a great job. That's what I'm saying. They that's what anyway. The Tri-State, they had 38 boats. 38 boats this year, 54 boats last year, and there was definitely more fish caught with the 38 boats this year. A lot of people were saying the conditions were just perfect this year, but I believe the big fish was still only in the high 20s, maybe mid 30s. It wasn't a huge fish or anything, and so I would say, I guess the regulations, they're making an impact. There's more fish being caught on the Ohio now. It's still going to take a long time to get back. I think it probably still needs more regulations put in place. But it's definitely, with already regulations there, you can start to see a little bit of an incline, and it might just be that the conditions were perfect in this tournament. But whatever it may be, hopefully, being optimistic, the river is actually going to start bouncing back. Yeah, you guys leave me alone. It's not eighth place. Maybe last year. But yeah, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes now. So Chuck, if you got any closing statements or any other do's and don'ts you want to hit real quick, go ahead and go for it.
No, I think we covered about everything. You know, it'd be a good topic to get on again. You know, here in the next month or two. Um, you know, pretty soon we'll probably be having a good show on, you know, what to do during spawn. That's always a good show. We'll be doing one of those soon. Um, you know, but that's all I got for tonight. So whenever you're ready to sign off.
All right, Lyle.
Well, I just basically let me find it here. The only thing that I really have is Twisted Cat Outdoors is having a tournament May 23rd in Nauvoo, Illinois. It'll be above the Keokuk Dam and I believe below the Burlington Dam, so it'll be that pool of water. $100 entry fee. Basically, unless you trip on a flathead or a blue, there'd be very few blues up there. Basically, a channel cat tournament, which means it'll be a 5-fish limit, and it'll be a really good time. We have lots and lots of interest in this. First place, if I remember correctly, is $1,500. We just added money by the city of Nauvoo, and we would love to have you all come up there. They got some really, really good channel cat in that area. So if you like the channel catfish, we'd love to see you up there. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that I covered the tournament for Hoosier Whiskers and Indiana Hunter on Schaefer. So, like I said, come to that if you can.
Hey, one
Go
thing
ahead.
I forgot, Chris. For you guys that haven't seen it, Heath Malone's wife, Elena, got in with them and done some fishing. They done a little video the other day and caught 2 really nice flatheads. She really showed them boys how to do it. She put some nice fish in the boat while they was sitting there letting them get off the hook. So give that video a look. It's really a good thing for doing some night fishing. She done a really cool job.
I'm asking. I want to let you guys know also what ramp that they'll be launching from. I believe it's the. Um, yeah, Chuck said he's going to try to drive up there and make that Schaefer tournament. So the next ICA tournament, while he tells me what ramp, the next ICA tournament is June 13th at Maxinkuckee Lake. I believe that's another northern lake, and should be an interesting tournament. Can't wait. I believe it's an overnight tournament, 7:30 to 7:30. He said that the ramp is the Big Monon ramp for the Hoosier Whisker Indiana Hunter Lake Schaefer tournament. So the Big Monon ramp, be there by probably 6:30, 7 o'clock. So you got plenty of time to get ready and everything. Look forward to catching some big old flatties and channel cats out there. Hopefully, 3-fish limit in that tournament. Believe that's all I have. So hope you guys enjoyed the show and see you next week. But just stay out of my spots, guys.
See you later.